Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we are going to talk star collecting Necrons, and today we're going to take a look in particular at the Annihilation Legion. Now before we get into all of that, we do have the army special rule here that we'll talk a little bit about before we look at the rules for the Annihilation Legion, both their detachment rule, their stratagems, and their enhancements as well. We'll then look at a couple of units we recommend to get started with for this particular faction, look at some units we can expand upon after the first couple initial purchases, and then finally finish off the video with a little sample arm list of 1,000 points for you to use, hopefully as some inspiration for starting your own force of the Necrons in Warhammer 40k. And so, to begin with, we have the Army Special Rule Reanimation Protocols. This essentially allows us to return models to each unit. If your army faction is Necrons, at the start of each command phase, each unit from your army with this ability can activate the Reanimation Protocols, and they reanimate D3 wounds, where the wounds effectively go on to wounded models first, healing wounded models back up to full health, and if a unit has no wounded models, and it has some models that are destroyed, it's below its starting strength, it can return one of those models to its unit with one wound, then it would fully heal that model up, and then begin returning another if that is something. Essentially, if they're all one wound models, it can return just D3 models. Now, once a unit is at its starting strength, and all of its models have their starting number of wounds, nothing further will happen. You never go above your starting strength. Today's video is brought to you by Gap Games, a fantastic retailer in Australia for a variety of different miniature war games. If you'd like to help support the channel, we have an affiliate link where by clicking on and purchasing, you'll help support the channel, but you'll also help support Gap Games, which is a fantastic servant to the community. Now, looking at the Annihilation Legion, this is a detachment that really does specialise in the Destroyer Cult and Flayed One units. Your sort of crazy Necrons, we could say. The Destroyer Cult Cursed, Curse of the Destroyer, and of course the Disciples of Clandevor as well. So each time a Destroyer Cult or Flayed One unit from your army declares a charge, they can re-roll the charge. And if one or more of the targets of the charge were below half strength, you can add one to the charge roll as well. So generally you want to have a little bit of shooting to do some damage to get these charge rolls to succeed. Now, we do have enhancements that definitely benefit a combat-focused Necron force as well. Eternal Madness for a Necron model only. In the fight phase, each time a model in the bearer's unit is destroyed, they can essentially fight on death on a 4+. Ingrained Superiority means Necron models only. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack on a critical hit, it is +1 AP. Now, the next two are for Destroyer Cult models only, so Soulless Reaper is going to stop enemy units being able to fall back, trying to get out of combat with you, which is pretty solid when you want to maybe tie up some strong shooting units. And Eldritch Nightmare can force battleshock tests on your opponent. And so here we have the stratagems. So we have 6 different stratagems for the force, 4 of which are battle tactics. All of them must be used by Destroyer Cult or Flayed One units. So pretty much you're not going to get stratagems on anything that's not a Destroyer Cult or Flayed One unit with this force. And so to begin with, first of all, Masks of Death. This makes our units -1 to hit in our opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase. Spore of Fatality for a single CP. Destroyer Cult or Flayed One units that's not been selected to shoot or fight in the phase can get bonus +1 to hit if they target an enemy unit below starting strength. And if they're below half strength as well, they get +1 a wound as well. Murderous Reanimation is just a reanimation protocols out of phase so long as we've either destroyed an enemy unit or we've caused an enemy unit that wasn't below half strength to become below half strength. Pitiless Hunters, a battle tactic, fight phase use, allows us to make pile-in and consolidation moves up to 6 inch. We then have Blood-Fueled Cruelty, where if an enemy unit tries to disengage from us, we can cause some mortal wounds to them on a 2 to 5, or on a 6, it'll be 3 mortal wounds instead of the D3 the other dice rolls will make. A 1 will do nothing, but we're allowed to make a normal move so long as we end as close to the disengaging unit. And Insanity's Ire if we are targeted by an enemy shooting attack and we have a model destroyed as a result. We can use this and we get to make a normal move as close as possible to the enemy unit that shot us. A solid bunch of very combat focused. Like I said, they all require you to be Destroyer Cult or Flayed One, so that's heavily going to dictate what models we are going to use within the force. And so, where to begin with for our force? And for me, I really like the brand new plastic Scorpic Lord. I mean, not exactly brand new, he came out at the start of last edition, but it is an amazing model. Now, what this does really nicely is it does have a ranged attack with the Amnesic Annihilator, giving you some ranged attacks to potentially try and cause some wounds on enemy units, so you can get some bonuses. And you've got a decent combat profile as well, with your Flensing Claw, 8 attacks, weapon skill 2+. Strength 6, minus 1 AP, damage 1 for going against hordes, or your Hyperphase Harvester with 4 attacks, 2+ to hit, strength 10, minus 3 AP and damage 3. You also give lethal hits out to a unit you do join, which can be some units of Scorpic Destroyers, and you also do mortal wounds on the turn you charge as well. So a really nice solid character, especially with 7 wounds, a 3+ save. This model can really do some surviving. Now, of course, if we're going to have that to start our force, the first unit we're going to look at are the Scorpic Destroyers. Whirling Onslaught gives them a reroll hit rolls of 1 and reroll all hit rolls on the charge. This is just awesome. It really gives you a lot of extra hits. When considering you are 4 attacks each at weapon skill 3+, strength 7, minus 2 AP and damage 2, it's a really nice solid buff. Now, you also have 3 wounds each, a 3+ save, pretty solid unit all round. And you got the Plasma Sight as well to give the unit once per game some devastating wounds, which can be really, really nasty. Moving on though, and where can we go next? The next sort of character you can bring in that is another one of your Destroyer Cult characters is the Locust Lord, who I do really like. You've got a couple of options in either the Lord's Blade, which is a devastating wounds combat weapon, or the Staff of Light, which is actually probably what I prefer. The Staff of Light, not as good in combat, but it does give you some extra ranged attacks. But the big reason here is you're probably going to be joining a shooting unit, so having some extra shooting is probably the way to go. Now, you do have the Destroyer Cult rule where you can actually give critical hits to your unit on 5+, which is really nice. Driven by a hatred as well, each time this model makes an attack that targets an enemy unit that's below half strength, you can re-roll the hit and re-roll the wound roll. Now, you've got an option of 2 main sort of upgrades here, either the Cyclolatry, which will give you a Feel No Pain 5+ on this model itself, or a Resurrection, or for a once per game return of D6 wounds to the unit, which I think is probably the way to go, especially if you're taking a big blob of Locust Destroyers. Speaking of Locust Destroyers, they are the unit, obviously, this model is going to be able to join, but it can also join Heavy Destroyers as well, though I think it gets a lot more out of joining your base Locust Destroyers. They have Gauss Cannons, which are lethal hits, so going to make a lot of use of the critical hits on 5s there. 3 attacks per model, Bliss Skill 3+, Strength 5, minus 2 AP and damage 2. The lethal hits really coming in clutch there, because minus 2 AP, damage 2's not too shabby. Strength 5 obviously is going to struggle, but this does mean that they can actually start targeting, some heavier targets with those lethal hits. Hardwired for destruction as well means each time a models unit makes an attack that targets the closest eligible unit, you can reroll hit rolls of 1, and if the target's on an objective as well, you just reroll the hit rolls. So a solid unit all round, I think, with the Locust Lord in them, really become quite an interesting take. Now, the Heavy Destroyer himself can have a really good anti-tank weapon, the Gauss Destructor. Strength 14, only one shot, Bliss Skill 3+, minus 4 AP and damage 6. Or you can go for the Amnesic Exterminator, which is heavy rapid fire 6 with 6 shots standard, so you can go up to 12 shots. Sustained hits 1, strength 6, minus 1 AP, damage 1. So you've got either a one-shot really good tank cannon, or you can go for something that can clear out hordes nice and easy. Next up, we then have units that are probably going to provide us with bodies, going to provide us with some things that can just sort of provide screens for our heavy shooting units, and that are the Flayed ones, who I think are a decently solid unit, if a little bit expensive in the current points. Though, worth remembering at this point in time, as the video is recorded, the points update hasn't come out, so they and the video at the end may have a few slight discrepancies in points, depending when that comes out. Now you have Infiltrators and Stealth, which is a nice combo, but really it's the Flayer Claws with Sustained Hits 1 and Twin Linked, 4 attacks each, Weapon Skill 3+, Strength 4, minus 1 AP and damage 1, can actually be a pretty solid unit, especially in the Annihilation Legion. Now, Flesh Hunger means each time you makes a melee attack, target of the attack is below half strength, you score critical hits on any successful hit, which is just really, really nice. Lastly, we have the Ophidian Destroyers, who are a little bit pricey, but they do bring something nice to the table. The Tunneling Horrors rule, allowing them to start the board and effectively come in from Deep Strike, is really, really nice. This just provides you with some good utility on the table, more than anything else. They still have 5 attacks each, though, at strength 4, -2 AP, and damage 2, so they're going to go into things like Space Marines and, basic sort of infantry like that, although Space Marines really basic infantry, and are going to do some serious work on them. And here we have our sample army list. Obviously going with the Annihilation Legion, we have 10 points spare. We have refrained from putting any of the enhancements in, just giving you the base units. And also with points coming to change, you may find you get some more points, you lose this 10 points or something like that. So we have our 2 characters. We have a Locust Lord with Resurrection Orb and Staff of Light, and a Scorpek Lord who will be our Warlord. For infantry, we have 2 units of 10 flayed ones. These are going to be our objective holders. Also going to be, able to clear out chaff, good at going into things like gaunts and stuff like that. The Ophidian Destroyers provide us with a nice utility piece, and then a big blob of Scorpek Destroyers to join the Scorpek Lord. We then have another big blob of destroyers, which is going to be 6 Locust Destroyers, and they're going to be joined by the Locust Lord, and these are going to be our 2 big hammers. We then have a Locust Heavy Destroyer, and really equip him how you see fit, whether you want him to be Horde Killer or Anti-Armor. He's going to be there to do a job and just be a nice little distraction Carnifex, essentially. If you have some ideas, though, on an Annihilation Legion force for the Necrons, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments below. And so, that's the end of the video. We hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below, letting us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our great little community here, we have a Discord server linked down in the video's description, and also linked down there are the best ways to help support the channel as well. Our Patreon and YouTube members down there are fantastic ways to help support the channel, and if you'd like to get a shout out like all these people, you can go and join up today. So, with that said, we'd like to give a shout out to all our Patreon and YouTube members. So, thank you to our Patreons: Rob B, Broken Chef, Andy C, Grimscold, Colorblind Magic, Benjamin Swallows, James Cater, Mark Harvey, Domir, Average Wargamer, Q Darmac, Andrew Bowen, Outer and Shot First, Kenny Lowe, and Soren. And to our YouTube members: Green Roots Gaming, Ronya, Lock Lorick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, James Tillman, Disco, John Castle, and Gargamel196. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone. Stay well. And most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.